warming up. That's going to be the focus of today's discussion. So, in general, we're not splitting atoms with warm ups, okay? They're critically important, they're necessary, you should do them, you should respect them, but they're not as difficult as some folks might want to make them out to be, okay? They don't have to be complicated. In general, the warm up is just supposed to get your body and maybe your mind ready for the workout of the day, to adequately prepare you to tackle the day's training. It's just that simple. Warm ups in general might be then further categorized to a general warm up and a specific warm up. And people would say that those serve two different functions. The general warm up, I think most people would agree, you're supposed to move your body through a full range of motion. That's my personal opinion anyway, at least the range of motion that you're going to use during the day's training. Elevate your body temperature and then elevate your breathing rate as well. The specific warm up would help develop some key function or movement patterns that are going to be specific to whatever the day's training happens to be. And then, also ideally, it would prepare you adequately for the demands or tasks in that workout. Maybe if we're talking about loading, you want your body to be prepared for whatever the loading is going to happen to be. And here's the deal, okay? Each person is a bit different with how much or how little they like to warm up, how much they need to do to feel ready to tackle the day's training. And that can not only differ per person, but it might differ per workout as well. Maybe some people can be ready to go below parallel in very short order, but it takes them quite a long time to get ready to go overhead, for example. Or maybe somebody's low back is just a little grouchy, if you will. They need to spend a bit more time warming up and strengthening and activating their low back before they pull some deads or something like that, whereas somebody else could get there a lot quicker. So there's a little bit of individuality mixed into there as well. And that I think is one of the key points I would like everybody to walk away with is, every day for the Lynchman Private Track, we put a detailed, very well thought out warm up to prepare you for the workout of the day. But with that being said, you should always understand that you have the freedom to play with that a little bit if you're aware of maybe some specific needs that you've identified over years of training for yourself. So I know while some people prefer the distinct start and stop of the general warm up is now over, now I'm going to start my specific warm up. That's great. I personally have found a lot of success, and I like kind of a hybrid between the two of combining the general warm up along with the specific warm up. I think there's a lot of benefit there. So, an example might be, let's say that we're doing a workout that involves some snatching. So a classic general warm up might be just like we said, moving the body through a range of motion, elevating the body temperature and the breathing rate, and then later on, now we're going to move on to the next phase, which is our specific warm up, in which we'll start building up the movement pattern of the snatch. That's fine, that's effective. But I personally believe you can, like I'm a big fan of putting the Bergner warm up, for example, into the general warm up and kind of again creating this hybrid. So now while I'm doing my general warm up, I'm actually warming up the specific movement pattern with an empty barbell that we will need to develop for the demands of today's training by doing the Bergner warm up. But I'm killing a couple birds with one stone because built into the Bergner warm up is really a great general warm up also. You're going to move all your joints through a full range of motion. If you do the Bergner warm up a couple times, you will elevate your heart rate and breathing and body temperature. So there are some ways to maximize your time, to maximize your efficiency, and combine a bit of the general warm up with the specific warm up. And I'm actually quite a big fan of that. So let's talk about a couple different real life examples that might help kind of paint this picture. And some of them might also identify why sometimes you might need a bit extra warming up. Sometimes you might be ready right after the warm up to dive into the workout of the day. And that is that space between when you finish the warm up But before the workout starts, that is your play time, your free time, your creative time to, if need be, build up the loading a little bit, to, if need be, do a practice round or something like that, if that's what you enjoy. I personally don't do practice rounds. Don't ever do them. Been doing it for 16 years, so obviously they're not necessary. But just because they're not necessary for me doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't very much enjoy them, benefit from them, and want to do them every day. Absolutely do that. That's your time to do that. Once the warm up stops, but before the workout begins, free time, play time, do what you want. So let's take DT for example. Classic CrossFit hero workout, 5 rounds for time, 12 deadlifts, 9 hang power cleans, 6 push jerks, 155 for men, 105 for women. Very demanding workout, but all barbell, right? No monostructural component to worry about, no gymnastics component to worry about. So DT is a great example where maybe you do your general warm up and then your specific warm up could be micro sets of DT, reducing the reps. Don't need to do 12 deads, 9 hang power cleans, and 6 jerks with an empty barbell for a round or two. Get loose, rest a couple minutes. You put a little more loading on, see how that feels. You rest a couple minutes. You just slowly and incrementally build until you're ready for the actual working weight of 155 for men or 105 for women, and then you go ahead and hit it. And doing that little barbell complex, building up and loading, has kept you loose, has kept your heart rate up, you're good to go. How many of those little complexes you need to do and how big should those jumps be from an empty barbell to the prescribed loading, I can't tell you that. And nobody can tell you that. I'm here to tell you that when I work out, I like to make more jumps and take some rest, and I build up a bit slower. That's I've just found through experimentation that treats my body better. It lets me warm up a bit more, and then when I'm ready to hit the workout, I just feel better. When I work out with my wife, that drives her absolutely bonkers. Whatever I like to do for a warm up, she probably just needs to do half. She wants to just get to it. Her body feels much warmer, much faster than mine. And so prescribing just an exact number of steps that any one single person would have to do will not work for all people. So again, that's your time to experiment and learn what works for you. So that's DT. On something like Cindy, which there's not a barbell in sight, AMRAP 20 minutes of 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, and 15 air squats. Cindy's an example where after the general warm-up, which maybe you've done some jumping jacks, some squat therapy, some inchworm push-ups, some, PVC pipe overhead shoulder pass-throughs, some scapula pull-ups, some kip swings, some banded pull-aparts, some ring rows. You might be ready after that warm-up to just immediately start the workout. Just be good to go because it's a longer time domain, a relatively lower intensity, so to speak, and you've exactly mimicked what you need to do in that general warm up. So, again, there's not just a one size fits all right there. Let's take something with way more complexity and skill. So, for example, Amanda, another hero workout in cross or named workout from Amanda Miller, 975 of ring muscle ups and the squat snatch, 135 pounds for men, 95 pounds for women. So you do your hybrid warm up, like we would prescribe, and you could have a whole bunch of those things I just mentioned there with Cindy as well, because we want to get you loose below parallel. We want to get you ready to press overhead. We've got the Bergner warm up that's going to take place in that hybrid warm up as well. We're getting ready to do some ring muscle ups, so we're going to open up our shoulders, might do some Turkish gebs, again, might do some inchworm push ups. We're definitely going to do some of those banded pull aparts, scap pull ups, kip swings, ring rows. Just get yourself ready to actually do some ring muscle ups as well. Well, once you finish the warm up, you've moved your body through a full range of motion, you've practiced the skills that you're going to do in the workout. But most of us aren't ready to just throw 135 pounds on the bar and start squat snatching. That's not the case. So once again, this is your time from when the warm-up starts, but the actual workout begins, that you, in whatever steps incrementally work for you, to build up the loading to when you feel good to go to do the working weight. And so that might be you put 95 pounds in the bar, you do some squat snatches, or maybe you do some power snatch into an overhead squat just to get your body feeling nice and loose. Maybe you can then jump right to 135, or maybe you do 115 for a bit. It doesn't matter. Whatever's the right course of action for you, take the time that you need. Don't be in a rush, because you want to be ready to put a good effort forth once the workout starts and 3, 2, 1, go happens. During that time, I would not just focus on the barbell. You've got some ring muscle ups to do, and you don't want all of that loosening of your body and warming up and the practicing of the movement patterns that you did during that warm up to go away as you just focus on the squat snatch and don't give the ring muscle ups any attention. Then all of a sudden you start Amanda and you realize, oh, that's right, it starts with the ring muscle ups, not with the squat snatch. And so while you're building up that barbell loading, you can do whatever works for you. Maybe you go do some chest to bar pull-ups and some ring dips, just a couple reps of each just to stay loose. Maybe you hit a couple muscle ups, low intensity, come down, shake it out. If you have some low rings where you would do dips, for example, you do a couple low ring muscle ups with your feet on the ground, just to kind of feel it, stay loose, keep the muscles engaged, and then when it's time to hit it, you're absolutely good to go. So I would play that game until I feel absolutely ready to go ahead and begin Amanda. Final one that we'll talk about is Helen. So Helen's interesting because you've got a 400-meter run involved in Helen, which is 3 rounds for time, 400-meter run, 21 kettlebell swings, and 12 pull-ups. You do your nice general warm-up, which might have got you ready to run as well, because maybe it's a 3 or 4 round warm-up, and maybe you're doing 1 or 2 minutes of some sort of cardiorespiratory activity during that, so you're feeling good. And then you're going to build up your kettlebell weight or make sure you feel good on the pull-up bar, so you focus on that a bit. You neglect the running. Now it's time to start Helen, and the lion's share of the work in Helen is the run. So you would want to make sure in that time period between your warm-up and the workout that while you're playing with the kettlebell, while you're doing some pull-ups in the pull-up bar, that you're doing, 100 meters out, 100 meters back, or 50 out, 50 back at a decent kind of pace that you intend to do Helen at, so that you're good to go. When you actually start the workout, you haven't neglected that part, which is so mission critical. So, not complicated, warming up, not complicated, but you want to make sure in that very important middle time that you are doing what serves you best so that when the workout starts, you're physically and mentally ready to go ahead and hit it. And the last thing I'll say, and I mentioned this a second ago, was while it's critical in that time to build up in loading or build up in reps so that you're feeling it, so to speak, and you're ready to go, if you do enjoy doing practice rounds, that's absolutely the time to do it. Some people like to do, a short version. If maybe we are doing, DT, they might do one quick round of 5 deadlifts, 4 hang power cleans, and 3 push jerks, at the actual working weight to make sure that you're good to go, or 2 little quick rounds of that, and then they'll rest for a couple minutes and go ahead and hit it, and you'll be good to go. So whether you choose to do practice rounds or not, experiment. You won't know whether or not you like it. You won't know what serves you the best until you give yourself that latitude to play just a little bit. So enjoy that playtime. There is no one rule on how to warm up, and anyone who says that there is probably has a hidden agenda. So that's it. Enjoy the workout of the day. Hopefully everyone's not as crushed and sore as I am from Murph yesterday, and we will talk again soon.